You deserved the raise. You opened your mouth. Nothing came out. Or something came out, but it was not what you meant to say. It was smaller than what you meant. Softer. More apologetic. The version of the ask that was preemptively shrunk to reduce the risk of the no. And that came out so diminished it barely counted as asking. Or you never opened your mouth at all. You prepared. You researched the market rates. You had the conversation in your head dozens of times. And then the moment came and you said nothing and the moment passed and you went back to your desk. This is one of the most common experiences in working life and one of the least examined. Because the consequence is invisible. There is no event. Nothing happened. You did not get the raise, but you also did not get rejected. You simply stayed where you were. What you do not see because it is not visible is the cumulative cost of staying where you were. The compound effect of every year of underpayment. The difference over a career between someone who asks and someone who doesn't. A difference that research estimates across a lifetime of earnings in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start with why it is so hard. The simple explanation is that asking for money feels rude. Mercenary. Like you are treating the job as a transaction rather than something you genuinely care about. Like you are saying, I have been keeping score. I know what I am worth to you, and I want you to acknowledge it in the most concrete possible way. That discomfort is real, but it is mostly cultural and partly constructed. In many professional contexts, asking for more money is simply what you do. It is expected, factored in, treated as a normal part of the employment relationship. In others, it carries a social charge that makes it feel transgressive. The difference is almost never about whether you deserve more. It is about the norms of the environment and the messages you absorbed about whether you are the kind of person who asks. And this is where it gets specific. Because the people who do not ask are not randomly distributed. Research on salary negotiation consistently shows that women negotiate less frequently and are penalized more when they do. That people from working-class backgrounds negotiate less frequently, in part because negotiation was not modeled and in part because the implicit social contract felt more precarious. Less room to risk the relationship with an employer. That people from minority backgrounds face a calculation that is not strictly about the money. The risk of being perceived as difficult, aggressive, ungrateful, in a way that carries different stakes than for someone for whom those perceptions carry less weight. The silence is not weakness. It is a rational response to an asymmetric risk. The problem is that it is a rational response that is costing you something very large. There is a specific fear that underlies the not asking for a lot of people. It is not the fear of being told no. It is the fear of what the no would mean. If you ask for more money and they say no, the official interpretation is, not right now, the budget is constrained, you will need to demonstrate more before we can revisit this. The rational interpretation. But the fear is of a different interpretation. One that is not rational but feels very real. They said no because the ask was inappropriate. Because I revealed something about myself by asking, an overestimation of my own value, a misreading of my standing. Because now they know I was thinking about this, which is somehow already a problem. Because the no is not just about the money, it is a verdict. This is the cognitive distortion that keeps a lot of people silent. The conflation of a compensation decision with a judgment of worth. The sense that asking and being declined means something about who you are rather than about the organization's budget in this quarter. Once you see it, you can see how absurd it is. A salary negotiation is a business conversation. The person across from you is not deciding whether you have value as a human being. They are making a budget decision. And budget decisions get made for 1,000 reasons that have nothing to do with your worth. But seeing it clearly and feeling it clearly are different things. And in the moment, in the conversation, the feeling is usually louder. There is also the preparation problem. Most people who do not ask because they feel they have not yet earned it. There is a threshold in their mind, a performance level, a credential, a length of tenure, a project completed that, once cleared, would make the ask legitimate. But the threshold keeps moving. The project is done. There is another project. The credential is earned. There is another credential. The tenure accumulates. The bar rises. This is not really about preparation. It is about permission, a permission you are waiting for someone else to give, that they are never going to give because the system does not work that way. No one will come to you and say, "You have now met the threshold, it is time to ask." The ask is yours to initiate. The threshold is yours to decide. Research on this is consistent. People who receive more compensation over their careers are not systematically better performers than people who receive less. They are people who asked more, who were willing to have the uncomfortable conversation more often, who treated compensation as something to be negotiated rather than something to be received. There is something else worth sitting with: what happens in the body when you try to ask. Most people who have been through this describe a specific physical experience. The conversation is going well. The moment arrives, and something happens that is not quite nervousness and not quite fear, a kind of seizing. The words that were rehearsed do not come. What comes instead is the smaller version, the qualified version, or nothing at all. This is not a failure of preparation. It is a nervous system response. The body has learned somewhere that this particular kind of assertion is dangerous, that putting a number on your worth invites rejection, that the space between the ask and the answer is one of the most exposed places a person can stand. This learning happened before the current job, before the current manager, probably before any job at all. It was installed in childhood, in the specific way that your household related to money and ambition and the propriety of wanting more. People who grew up in environments where asking was modeling, where they watched the adults in their lives negotiate, advocate, make claims, find the salary conversation uncomfortable but doable. People who grew up in environments where wanting more was seen as greedy or unrealistic or dangerous find it does something to them that preparation alone cannot fix. Understanding this does not make the conversation easy, but it clarifies what is actually going on. The obstacle is not that you do not know the words. The obstacle is older than the words. Here is what actually happens when you ask. Most of the time, one of three things: yes, not right now, or a counter. All three are better than the silence. Yes, obviously. Not right now is information. It tells you where you stand. It opens a conversation about what would make a yes possible. It puts the issue on record. A counter is a negotiation beginning, which is exactly what you wanted. The outcome that people fear, the relationship ending no, the revelation that changes how you are perceived. The beginning of a quiet process of being managed out. This happens rarely and almost never in response to a competent, evidence-based ask. It is not zero, but it is much rarer than the fear suggests. And the thing that you are not comparing it to, the cost of not asking, which is not zero either. It is accumulated, invisible, and permanent. There is something else that tends to happen when you ask, that nobody mentions because it sounds too simple. The asking itself changes how you are perceived. Not because asking is aggressive or demanding, because asking signals that you have a sense of your own value, that you are tracking the market, that you are the kind of person who has these conversations. Managers, most of them, respond to this differently than people expect. Not with resentment, with a recalibration of who they are dealing with. The person who never asks is the person who gets passed over in the next round of increases, not out of spite, but out of the assumption that they are fine where they are. The person who asks, even when the answer is no, has put something on record that changes the next conversation. How to actually do it is worth being direct about, because most advice on this is vague. You are not asking for a favor. You are opening a business conversation. You have information about your value, what you have delivered, what the market pays for that delivery, and you are bringing that information to the table. The framing is not need. Not, I need more money. The framing is value. Based on what I have delivered and what the market looks like, I think we should talk about my compensation. You say a number, a specific number, not a range. A range tells the other person which end of it you are willing to accept, and they will accept that end for you. A specific number anchors the conversation. You are quiet after you say it. This is the hardest part. The silence after the ask is almost always filled by whoever speaks first. If you speak first, you will often talk yourself down. Wait, and then you listen. What they say next is data, not a verdict. Data. If the answer is yes, you have gained something immediate and also established a pattern. If the answer is not right now, you ask what the timeline looks like and what would need to be true to revisit it. You write that down. You follow up when the time comes. If the answer is a counter, you consider it, Not reflexively accepting, not reflexively declining, but actually considering whether it is close enough or whether there is more to work with. None of this is comfortable, but it is a conversation, not a crisis. Treating it as a crisis is what makes it feel like one. The raise you did not ask for is still out there somewhere, in the company's budget, in the market rate that exists for your work, in the money that went to someone else who had the same skills and the same performance and a slightly different relationship with the discomfort of asking. You are not required to be permanently comfortable with the ask. It can be uncomfortable every time and still be worth doing. Most things that matter are uncomfortable in exactly this way. Not dangerous, not wrong, just uncomfortable enough that most people do not do them. The cost of avoiding this particular discomfort compounds. Every year you stay at a salary that is below your market value is a year of lost earnings that you cannot get back. The negotiation that happens at the start of a new job or at the annual review sets the baseline for everything that follows. A starting salary that was $5,000 lower than it should have been, held for 10 years with standard percentage increases applied, is not $5,000 in loss. It is much larger than that when you account for the raises calculated as percentages of the lower base. The math is not abstract. It is your actual money, already earned in the sense that you did the work that should have produced it, just not yet in your account. You opened your mouth last time and nothing came out. That was last time. This time something comes out. Specific, prepared, evidence-based, said once clearly and then waited for. That is all it is. Uncomfortable for a few minutes, permanent in its consequences.